All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to put on our detective hats and try to crack a really tough medical case, the mystery of peripheral neuropathy. It usually starts with these really subtle, kind of confusing feelings, things that are tough to put into words, but you definitely can't ignore them. It's almost like your own body is trying to tell you something, but it's speaking a language you just don't get.
And these feelings, they're all potential clues. We're talking about tingling hands, burning feet, maybe a sudden weakness when you try to grip something, or those sharp shooting pains that just hit you out of the blue. These are all signals that something's up with the body's peripheral nerves. And this condition, believe me, is a genuine medical mystery that affects millions of people.
So, when you're faced with this giant puzzle of symptoms, where do you even start? How does a doctor begin to sift through all of that evidence to actually find the right answer?
Well, it turns out the key isn't some fancy high-tech scan or a single magic blood test. Nope. It's actually a really powerful intellectual toolkit, a structured way of thinking that guides the whole investigation from start to finish.
And that toolkit is built around 7 key questions. Each one helps the detective or the doctor narrow down the search. They're asking things like, what systems are involved? Is it just the nerves or something else going on, like the autonomic system that causes dizziness? What about the weakness? Is it in the hands and feet, or is it closer to the body's core? Where's the sensory loss, and what kind of sensation is it? And this is a big one. What's the timeline? You see, by methodically answering these questions, they can start to turn this confusing jumble of symptoms into a story that actually makes sense.
Okay, so let's see this toolkit in action. We're not going to go through all 7 questions, don't worry, but I want to show you how the answers to just a couple of them can immediately point the investigation down a very, very specific path.
Now, what's so fascinating here is just how much a simple clock or a calendar can tell you. I'm serious. The timing of the symptoms, what doctors call the temporal evolution, is an absolutely critical piece of this puzzle.
Think about it. If symptoms pop up and get worse over just a few days, that screams an acute process, maybe something like Guillain-Barré syndrome. But if it's a pattern of getting worse, then better, then worse again over weeks or months, that points toward a chronic inflammatory condition, like CIDP. And what if a condition just creeps along, getting slowly worse over years and years? Well, that really pushes the investigation toward a hereditary cause.
All right, let's add another layer to our investigation. The next huge clue comes from understanding the exact nature of the sensory changes. See, it's not just about whether there's numbness or not. The real question is, what kind of sensation is being lost? And, just as important, what kind is still there?
And this slide illustrates the point perfectly. Take a look. In a condition called small fiber neuropathy, which by the way is often linked to diabetes, a patient loses the ability to feel pain and temperature. But here's the thing. They can still feel vibration and tell you where their arms and legs are without looking. That specific pattern, it's a massive clue that sets it apart from other types of neuropathy.
So, when you start combining these clues, the timing, the type of sensation, where the weakness is, and all the rest, a really clear pattern starts to emerge, and that's what allows our medical detective to go from this overwhelming sea of possibilities to a short, manageable list of the most likely suspects.
So let's build a hypothetical case file here. Imagine this. The patient has weakness that's been getting slowly worse for years. During the physical exam, the doctor notices they have unusually high arches in their feet. And here's a weird detail. The patient doesn't really complain much about numbness or tingling, even though tests show there's definitely some sensory loss. So what does that collection of clues tell us? This unique mix of motor problems, a specific physical trait, and those subtle sensory findings. That's not random. No way. It's a very, very specific signature. That right there is the classic signature of Charcot-Marie tooth disease. It's a group of inherited disorders that go after the peripheral nerves. That super slow progression, the shape of the feet, the quiet sensory loss, it all fits. It's a textbook example of how recognizing a pattern can lead you straight to a probable diagnosis.
But even with this really powerful, methodical approach, there's a major twist, and it happens in a surprising number of these cases. The investigation? Well, it doesn't always lead to a clear culprit.
Get this. In over half of all cases of peripheral neuropathy, even after doing everything right, a specific cause is never found. They just get labeled idiopathic. For the patient and for the doctor, the trail just goes cold. So, you might be thinking, if the cause is going to be a mystery more than half the time, then what's the point? What's the ultimate goal of all this detective work? Why even go through the whole process?
Because the investigation was never just about slapping a name on the condition. It's about systematically ruling out the causes that you can actually treat. I mean, finding something simple like a B12 deficiency. That's a huge win. And even if you don't find a single underlying cause, the process itself creates a roadmap, a plan for managing the symptoms and giving the patient the best possible path forward.
So, at the end of the day, it really comes down to this. The whole process is about taking a really complex, confusing clinical picture and turning it into a manageable list of possibilities. It's about creating order from the chaos so you can figure out the best next steps for that patient's care.
And that leaves us with one final thought. This really elegant process of methodical questioning, of taking a massive, overwhelming problem and breaking it down into a series of structured questions, well, that's not just for medicine, is it? It's an incredibly powerful tool for understanding any complex system. And it just goes to show that asking the right questions can turn even the most impossible mystery into a clear path forward.